Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Newark Municipal Council Special Meeting Conference Meeting. Madam President, in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice has been provided to the Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, and to the public at large establishing the date, time, and location of this meeting. May I have a roll call of those present, please?
Roll call, please.
Present. Here.
Present.
Present. Here. Here.
Here. Mr. Clerk.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, we have a request for an executive session prior to the start of this meeting. Roll call for executive session. Council of the whole.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going into a brief executive session. I ask that unless you're part of the discussion that will follow, that you please step out of the chamber.
But then they meet on the side on their own, just to stay up to par and together on things, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not a worse
We don't
thing.
have to talk about no raises though.
You see?
I think I'm out of commission.
Yes. We're going to do it this afternoon. Absolutely. You'll be copied.
John, ask her if we can go. Ask Joyce if we can go.
Personnel. The word should be personnel. Matters, but not personnel matters.
I like that they put that.
They should not be discussing personnel.
Madam President, we are back from executive session. On the agenda, we are on page 2. Ordinance on public hearing, second reading and final passage, 6 PSNF A is an ordinance granting a 23-year tax abatement to the 98 Freelandheising Real Estate Urban Renewal Entity, LLC, for a project to deliver a site pad and construct a 110-room hotel above the existing parking garage located at 94-120 Freelandheising Avenue. Madam President, at the request of the administration, Council of the whole to defer action at this time. The public hearing will remain open.
Roll call to defer.
Yes.
Yes to defer.
Yes.
Yes to defer.
Yes.
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 Resolution 7R12A is a ratifying, authorizing, and amending resolution for the Department of Water Sewer Utilities for professional services contract, amendment number 4 to provide design and/or administer construction of several combined sewer overflow sites.
Madam President, if I may, I see that this contract was originally signed for $1,250,000. Now we are up to $3,700,000. So we have increased this contract by $2.5 million by way of change orders or additions to the contract. Why is it that, and this is not for the construction, this is for the supervision and design of the catch basins. So how much money did we spend in the actual construction of the catch basins?
This is construction.
So, Councilman, it's not catch.
Excuse me. Please state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kareem
Name and
Nadeem.
position for the
I
record.
apologize. Kareem Nadeem, Acting Director, Department of Water and Sewer. So this is the consent order for us to do the combined sewer overflows. This property acquisitions and negotiate with a lot of to secure property to build these facilities and the redesigning after we secure properties. This is the last 3 of 14 combined sewer overflows, Delavan, 4th Avenue, and Roanoke, that we finally secured.
How much was the construction cost of, if we had spent $3.7 million in the supervision of the construction, how much was the construction?
So the construction cost on all 14 was a little over $9 million. I can give you the exact number later on. I don't have it on me.
So it cost $9 million to construct and almost $4 million to supervise the construction and design the construction.
So we had to acquire land too, Councilman. Acquiring some of the land, we went back and forth with where the original design was going to
The
go.
$9 million includes the acquisition of the land or not?
The acquisition of the land was worked out in the professional services.
It was included in the
Negotiating,
3.7. So the 3.7 includes the cost of acquisition of the
Yes.
land. How much was can you tell us how much it was?
I don't have those numbers in front of me. I want to be accurate with giving you the numbers, so I don't want to say something that I'm not.
Okay, it's that normally when you have a contract like this, contract law, state contract law requires that you go out and you rebid the contract if it is going to change that. That's substantial, like here. In this case, we are changing the contract by actually tripling the amount of the contract from $1.2 million to $3.7 million. Someone may question why is it that we are, let's say, entering into a contract for 1.2 when we know that contract is going to be for much more than the original amount, and that's my concern. That's my concern, actually.
Duly noted. Some of these amendments go back to 2009.
No, you weren't there before, so...
A lot of it has to do with land, acquiring land, and the designs that they did on previous property that they thought they were going to have to build this property, and once you didn't get that land, you had to move somewhere else to do another design on a different land.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Clerk,
Council of the whole to adopt?
roll call to adopt.
For the reasons stated, I abstain.
Yes.
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 Yeah, Madam President.
Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, I would request a kind of a summary of the costs associated with each phase of this project. I think the director gave us kind of a very brief overview, but I'm sure that if someone in his office sat down and identified, what the costs associated with additional land acquisition and changes in the scope of the intended project, would make us all feel more comfortable with the recommendation that's before us today.
Council President.
Any other comments? Councilman James.
I just want to commend the administration for trying to finalize some of these projects. As you stated, they've been dragged on since 2009, 10 years ago. Specifically, whenever there's a storm or high water, we have complaints about flooding. So this regards combined sewer overflows on Roanoke Avenue, 4th Avenue, and Delavan. And I hope there are more you can come up with, South Street and some others that need relief when it rains or heavy storms. But thank you for completing these projects.
Madam President, if I may just...
Yes.
You are.
I am not opposed to the project. I am opposed to the change orders for the project. But the project is one that we needed and something that had to be done because we had a consent decree to do it. Yeah. So I believe that it's a matter sometimes of disclosure more than anything else.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
The added starter sheet. 7R6A is an authorizing resolution for the Department of Law to authorize employees of the City of Newark to confer openly upon instruction from the Corporation Council with members of the Joint Defense Agreement.
Council as a whole.
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Council of the whole to defer action, to adjourn the voting meeting?
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
We are now in the conference meeting, Madam President. The New Jersey Transit called early yesterday to indicate that because of a meeting that had been called, the individuals who were scheduled to come to before us today will not be available. They are rescheduling, we believe, for the special in April. So we will move on to the Zoning Board of Adjustment matters with the Acting Deputy Mayor, Ms. Rogers.
I want to hear her title.
Natasha Rogers, Chief Operating Officer, Acting Deputy Mayor, Director of Economic and Housing Development. Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of EHD, myself and my staff, strategies and implementations that we're focused on throughout the department. I want to frame, set, and let you know that today we'll just be talking about zoning and planning, and on April 9th, today we'll be talking about zoning and planning in addition to a project that we're about to finish at Mulberry Commons. And then on April 9th, we will talk about the department in totality. The both complexity and beauty of EHD, it is a large division with 75 employees that touch and interact with almost every other city agency. So therefore, when we talk about processes and we talk about streamlining them and improving them, it takes a comprehensive approach, and it takes a little bit of time to turn it around. But I'm going to hand it over to who I call our Chief Planning Officer, Chris Watson, to talk about some of the great things that are happening currently in the department and why, when matters come before you, they're not by happenstance. There's a strategy around all of them.
We have a copy. I think we have a copy. We have it in our folder.
You don't have this? Okay. It's in our folder.
Yes.
Chris Watson, City Planning Officer. I would like to thank Ms. Rogers and thank the City Council for giving us an opportunity to talk about planning and zoning and the state of affairs in our department. I want to start off first just with on the first slide from the package you have, just giving you a diagram approach as to the department and how bifurcated it is. So with planning and zoning, it's bifurcated into two aspects. On your left, you're looking at the application processing, and in the application processing, we're pretty much staffed to some level of capacity. On the right is the city planning aspect, and the city planning aspect, we would really like to get the department to be planning as per wards, but as of now, we don't have ward planners, so we're proposing to hire 5 ward planners with a complement of skills you see in our red box. So everything you see here in this diagram in a red box represents a staff that is needed in the department. So for instance, the 5 planners we're looking to hire, they will have skills in transportation, GIS and mapping, community development, city design and rendering, and economic development, rotating in each ward, so each ward gets this complement of expertise. So what's the state of our division? Even with the limited capacity, we've been able to process over the past 3 years close to 500 applications. What we're seeing with the application process is that we're seeing an uptake in zoning board applications, and it's quite normal for cities to experience uptake in zoning board applications as we come to the end of our master plan. Beginning at the 4th quarter of this year, it's time for us to start thinking about revisiting our master plan and start doing the type of planning that is going to be responsive to the changing development landscape that we are seeing in Newark. And apart from the applications that go towards our boards, We do a lot of supporting applications in the department. And year to date, you're looking at this slide, and this is representative as of today. You can see in terms of businesses licenses alone, we have processed 1,700 business licenses. We've processed 400 state licenses, 268 legal use letters, 450 certificate of occupancy and permits, 600 code compliance applications, and 139 legal use letters. Now, this is a volume of work. And this is a volume of work that don't stay in our department for more than 10 days. Back in November, we were backlogged up to 3 months. With the help of the CO and the engineering department, we have streamlined processes. And none of these applications, I can assure you, stay in the division for more than 10 days. So even with the limited staff we have, we do churn out a significant amount of work. Something else that we are currently engaged in is the blighting process. A lot of developers ask us to blight property for them because the city was designated an area in need of rehabilitation. And through the blighting process, they get access to more robust funding structure. Blighting is something that takes up a lot of our man hours. For instance, just thinking about the Lotus Bear Stadium, that alone took up 100 man hours at $150 per hour, costing us over $15,000 to do that process. And it's a real time-consuming process where first developer, if you look at the slide to the right, and looking at it clockwise from the outer circles, developer first asks for their property to be blighted, we bring that resolution to you, you send it on to the planning board who conducts that blighting, and send a recommendation to you that you eventually adopt into a blight study, or a blight adoption, sorry. Then the last thing I want to talk about is just the amount of monies that we've been expended over the past 3 years to our in-house and out-house professional staff. For our city professionals, 60% of their salaries basically goes towards application support. Also, the board attorneys, close to 50% of the amount we pay those board attorneys go towards application support. And to our outside planning companies, Nishwin and Higher Grew, close to 90% of what we pay them go towards application support. In total, we've spent in the past 3 years $1.75 million in application support. And I'm saying this to just reinforce the support for the escrow and to say thank you for allowing us to have an escrow, because it's through an escrow that we are able to recapture some of this financing, because we are allowed by state law to have an escrow system where the developers pay into an escrow account that goes towards the support of their applications. So,
you said that you recover a portion?
Prior to what is now before you in the escrow, none of this money was ever recouped. But as soon as the escrow becomes law, we will be able to start recouping that money.
Will you recover the total or just a portion?
A portion. So if I go back to the slide on page number 5, you will see that I have like the city professionals at 60%. There's a representation of their salary amount that goes towards application support, and the escrow will allow us to recover that amount.
Portion, yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. So how we it goes, and so this leads me into how we're going to be capturing value. So for this year, we're expecting a total of 25% increase in our application, and this is just looking back at the past 3 years and looking at that trend. And so we're expecting a total of 185 applications this year. And if we compare it to how much we collected in planning board fees and zoning board fees last year, with our projection, we're looking at a $1.5 million just in application fees alone, because the council did allow us to revisit our application fees and how we restructure those fees, placing more of a burden on large developers as opposed to the small developers and the local residents. Yes, Councilman James.
Yeah, with your increased capture, I know we discussed prior that you had staffing issues and the salaries, and we're having competition with other municipalities luring our staff members away because they have certifications. How much of this new captured revenue we can use towards staffing?
That's my next slide. Yeah, so for the year, just thinking about we have already lost the first quarter of the year. So adjusted for the first quarter loss, we'll be seeing with the now establishment of the escrow and the revision of our fee structure, we'll be seeing an increase of $824,000. Now, which leads me to my next slide, which was the first slide that I showed. We will be able to use some of that to now staff up. Because if it's important that we get a full complement of staff we need, especially for the city planning aspect of the office. Because if you don't get to city planning, what we will see is even more ballooning in applications that goes towards the zoning board. And the idea is that we should only use our zoning board as a last recourse when we are developing a city. We should be prudent and be cognizant of how the development landscape is changing and write the kind of prescriptions to respond to that. And that's what city planning allows us to do. So we're hoping that with this increased fee structure and the establishment of the escrow, we'll be able to turn all of these red slots into green slots.
Any other questions? Councilman Gonzalez and Councilman Ramos.
Yes, the director and deputy mayor and the COO indicated before that she was creating a one-stop application office, more or less, that would expedite the processing. Where are we with that?
So the one-stop office was launched 2 weeks ago. We're going to do a formal announcement. It's located in B13. So it has a representative from each permitting agency, so fire, water, and sewer, so all the various agencies, so that users, residents, and redevelopers or developers that need permitting process or need permits can come in and start their process and get their questions answered, and they don't have to go to different various agencies across the city.
Do they have the authority to approve right then and there, or?
No, it's not an accelerated process in a sense that we're not, it's a streamlined process. So it's not we're not expediting any permits, we're just streamlining it so that at least you can get all the information that you need and get that information fulfilled in one place. That is we can look into the expedition process.
I would be interested in having that conversation, because I believe the complaint is that it takes too long to have the permits issued.
So Chris Watson mentioned in his presentation that the fourth quarter of last year, we spent an enormous amount of time. So we have a task force that meets weekly. It's all interdepartmental in my office, the Office of the CEO, and we work on different projects, and we work through them. So as of fourth quarter, the first project that we worked on was CCC permits. So these are permits that you use when you buy and sell a home in the city of Newark. And we realized that the queue to receive one of those permits was about 3 months. That was the waiting time. So in November, if someone wanted to sell a home, they didn't get a date for inspection until about March or April. So through that task force and us analyzing processes, we were able to eliminate the bottleneck. So as of December 24th, it was a nice Christmas gift to the community, or a holiday gift for those that celebrate, to know that that bottleneck was released. And then we further focused on what are the issues that created the bottleneck in the first place. And the one stop was a result of that analysis. In addition, we sent out a survey to all the realtor industries, or at least from the MLS program, to also ask them to say, based on the way that you do business in the city of Newark, what are the issues that the issues that you feel that the city needs to work on? So we are now compiling that information to also further refine that process. So we're going step by step, and I understand that time is of the essence, but we want to make sure, and it's not to aim for perfection, because that can be the enemy of the good. But we want to make sure that we don't tackle a symptom thinking that's going to relieve a problem versus really focusing on what is the real problem.
What's the status on the CCC?
The status of the CCC is that we reduced the time limit from 3 months to 10 days.
That's excellent.
Yes, that's good. It could be.
He said good. She said.
If you are a district attorney and you are selling, let's say you are representing a seller of the property, 10 days might be a deal killer. because sometimes people get ready to close, and then you don't have that CCC, and if you close without the CCC, you expose yourself and your client to penalties. I believe that at one point in time, that was like a couple of days, 2-3 days, and we should, I believe, target to that end. I believe that if we have the enough people that are going to go and make the application, make the inspection of the property, and sometimes when I was on that field, people were going, and the applications and the inspections were not as thorough as they should have been, and some people bought properties that had defects that were not discovered in the application. So I believe it's important to have a thorough inspection, but a timely inspection at the same time.
And we wholeheartedly agree with you. The process is not over. As a result of further process improvement, we realized, or the plan is to add per diem inspectors in the fire department because of all the departments. That was the biggest bottleneck within the bottleneck. And as a result, also, we reached out to realtors to find out what information. I will give it to, I want to, this is a community, a collaborative effort. So I want to make it a point to let everyone know that under Tommy McDonald's, am I pronouncing his last name right? Direction, even before we started this process, he shifted hours so that people were working from mid-afternoon to late evening to be able to accommodate the working hours of our community versus working the traditional 9 to 5. And I think that's just an innovative, ingenuitive way that a manager can be impactful in the city of Newark, given the constraints that they're working with.
And I would like to commend
Yes.
Tommy also, because he doesn't only work from Monday to Friday.
Exactly.
He has inspectors on Saturdays
Yes.
and Sundays
Yes.
going and supervising construction.
Yes.
There is a lot of illegal construction that happens on weekends, and I believe that he has curtailed that.
Yes, yes. And and I know you said once upon a time, there was a moment where CCC permits could be done to 1 to 2 days, and our aim is to get back to that place. But I want to remind everyone that once upon a time was before massive layoffs. And we've never rebounded from an employment perspective from that situation. And this is the goal when we talk about these new initiatives and new legislation or matters that we would like for you to opine on in order to get back to that place.
Councilman Ramos.
Thank you, Madam President. Just want to say thank you for the presentation. I think it's helpful in kind of, defining the different applications that your various boards and commissions have to review. I just want to note that the largest number of applications out of all the boards actually is the Historic and Landmarks Commission, which is the only board that's not compensated, believe it or not. And I've been to a number of those hearings, and those individuals can be there, close to midnight or past midnight reviewing applications. What I want to say about that is that some years ago, I actually authored a revision to the historic preservation ordinance that the city has, and it actually created the position of a historic preservation officer / planner who has the authority to review applications for alterations that are not major in scope. And as a result of that person being on staff, the number of applications that were heard by this board were significantly reduced. And it allowed the homeowners to proceed with renovations that they wanted to make in a more timely fashion. And I know we haven't filled that position for quite some time, and we've been relying on outside consultants to do some of that work, which I would imagine is much more expensive than us allocating a planner, either full-time, part-time, or partially to review these applications for alterations in our historic district. So, one of my goals, and hopefully through the BA who's here, is that, your department has the authorization to bring that person on board as soon as possible, because this is a significantly a large number of applications that this board is hearing, on a weekly basis. And the frustration on the property owner side is that sometimes they may have a issue with their roof, and they can't get before the Historic Commission for some months. And meanwhile, they have to deal with leaks. They have a tarp over their roof in order to protect their property. So I'm not sure if that's on your radar, but I would like to see your department fill that position and adhere to the ordinance.
In lieu of that, Councilman Ramos, we do have design review from the commission, so they try to meet at least twice per month when we have applications, so they can go through with the applicant that process of what that review planner would have done. So we have been doing that to decrease the amount of time they spend when they meet at the commission, because they would have had the opportunity to come in casually, look at the application with the applicant. 3 members from the commission normally meet, one of which is a planner and 2 of which are architects. So
but if you look at the ordinance, there's a historic preservation officer / planner who works for the department that has the authority to approve certain alterations. So you don't even have to have to sit down with your board members. In the past, it was Michelle Alonso. She was the last person that filled that responsibility, and she would go ahead, meet with the property owner, review whatever plans they have. If it's an additional window, if it's replacing their slate roof with something close to the original material, she had the authority to approve that. So you didn't even have to go to the landmarks to the commission for approval, because one of your staffers would have had that authority, and that hasn't been in place for a long time. So.
I will definitely put it on our.
Anyone else?
Council President, first I want to say thank you for this presentation. It is indeed informational and helpful to the council, and as well as to the public that are here viewing on TV and here. I have a few questions. One, what is the projection to the hiring of the 5 ward planners? When do you estimate that you'll be hiring these people?
Well, we're going through our budget proposal process, which should be done by the end of this quarter. It takes about 4 weeks to post a job description, so we think mid-year. Oh, you have all the descriptions. So we're thinking about mid-year.
Okay, mid-year, July 2019?
2019.
So July, August?
Yes.
Okay. And lastly, no, I don't think it's lastly, but the next question, in addition to some of the things that we've done as a council and in the administration in regards to trying to increase the number of applications that are heard with the appointing of the 2 alternate members, what do you project, how helpful will that be in terms of how many more applications will we see a month, like in a month's time span?
So it wouldn't really, what it would do, it is allow us to get through the agenda for the evening. Most times what happens is that for the zoning board itself, all of the commissioners are not there on time, or some of them may be absent. And the applicant walks into the room, they count the amount of commissioners on the desk, and they realize that, if I don't get every single vote, this application would not be approved. And immediately they ask for an adjournment. And now we have to put them back on the calendar for the next meeting. So we're not getting through our agenda. These alternates would allow us to get through our agenda. So we will be able to, in a sense, ease the bottleneck that we are seeing. But full disclosure, I wouldn't want the council to feel as though these 2 additional members will immediately solve the problem, because it's a bifurcated problem in a sense. So we have to start doing a little bit more city planning. And we have been doing a lot of that in terms of overlay zones. We are currently working on some overlay zones that deals with issues like with irregular lots, because we see a lot of variances coming for buildings that are going to be built on irregular lots. So whilst we take care of the reasons why they're coming to the zoning board, these additional members would allow to clear up the backlogs. like a multi-sprung approach towards solving this backlog problem.
Okay, so I think at some point, it doesn't have to be today, of course, we should try, and I know you guys already been working on this, on how do we increase the number of applications that we hear at the boards. People have been telling us, which we have already stated, that they have a 6-month waiting period, or they're not going to be seen for another 6 to 7 months from the time that they submit an application. And as I expressed before, that's very concerning for a city this large. To on an average basis, you're telling me that there may be, like, if you take, for example, let's say 71 in 2018, we had 71 planning applications. So you're telling me that on the average, we approved 6 to 7 applications a month for a city this large?
No. So although we would have heard or received 71 applications, it doesn't mean we are still doing 7. Some of those applications are administratively approved, and others go to the planning board or the zoning board, and they get through on a timely basis. But it's important to recognize that we have seen an increase in application in the city of Newark just because of our development landscape has changed. Somebody let the secret out that Newark is the place to be. So everybody is here. So we are seeing an uptick in these applications. That's why in my presentation I was saying when we really staff up the capacity, what we would really allow is for these applications to be steered more to the planning board where we don't have this backlog. And another caveat that is important that the council should know is that a lot of times the applicants and developers, they come and they complain. But the truth be told is that they don't bring in their complete applications. They come in and their application is missing drawings, is missing a whole lot of stuff. And they take a time to get that to us also. As soon as we have a complete application, we do a review in less than 10 days and put them on the agenda. One of the things that we started, we completely edited our application itself. And we made it clear to most of the developers that we know and their attorneys that we will no longer be accepting applications that are incomplete. Because what we were doing over the past years is really and truly accepting incomplete applications. So the applicant comes in and they're starting their process from the day they brought something that wasn't completed. So we're saying, please, do not bring your application until it's completed, because we will review it in 10 days and get you onto the calendar. Instead of us having your folders for the 3-4 months that you were waiting to get us the relevant documents so we can do our review.
That's excellent.
Yes, I
Councilman
wasn't
Gonzalez.
finished. Real quick, I'm sorry, Council Crum. So,
To piggyback on that, let's
Carlos, I'm not done. I just have one more thing.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh, so thank you for that, Chris. That is very helpful. I do not doubt people come with incomplete applications, a whole lot of different things, case-by-case situations. And anytime that I'm getting a complaint or want an update of a status of something, I usually just reach out about it. But in some cases, these are people who already have successful projects in the city that have been completed, and they tell me about the long wait. And so I just hope that on an ongoing basis, which I'm faithful that we are doing that we are looking at ways to increase the time limit of people getting their projects approved, because that, like I said, that's one of the biggest complaints that we get as a council regarding those. And lastly, I just wanted to bring to the attention regarding the business licensing, which is really not used so much, Chris, about it. But I do think that the council needs to look at the, which is really like a sidebar, the issuing of licensings or revoking licensing for people in the city. We have some situations, and especially in general, the city in general, but in the Central Board most recently, where we have certain businesses being raided and people being arrested in those businesses for illegal activity, and then they're open the next day, or let me say the next hour. That's a problem. Like, people should not be being arrested or raided and they're, whatever illegal activities happening, and then they're able to be back in business the next day. How does that look to residents and to the city? We have to, at some point, review the ordinance and make some changes to that. I had a couple of meetings with a couple of captains about that, and that's something that we need to address immediately, because it is a huge issue. And like I said, it's not particularly on Chris or, you guys' department, but we do need to revisit that corporate council council and the BA about how do we address that, because that is a severe issue in the city. Thank you for this presentation.
And just want to alert you,
Councilman
Councilwoman.
Gonzalez.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to alert Councilwoman McIver that there's also another bi-weekly meeting where those entities get together and talk specifically about that, work specifically on that project that you just mentioned. I haven't been able to attend the last couple of weeks because I've been dealing with other things and other positions, but once I get the notes back about where we are in that process, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I'll let the council know.
Yeah, when let's say the application completion date, it triggers a clock.
Yeah.
And if we accept something that is incomplete, that might, let's say, have some effect on the disposition of that application, because you have to complete the review of that application in certain number of days. How is that affecting? Let's say if you are accepting something that is incomplete, and that person may go to court and say, by the way, they accepted my application, so it was deemed complete at the time. What do we do when the application is deemed complete? Do we write something or?
Yeah, so the first step is that we stop accepting totally incomplete applications.
Good.
We're not doing that in the department anymore. We meet weekly and we talk about this particular issue that, because when we accept an incomplete application, we are tasked with filling in that application. So we have stopped that process completely.
That shifts the burden
on the applicant. So that's the first thing, right? And then after the review process, the applicant is informed via a letter that your application is deemed complete, it has been reviewed, and you have been scheduled to the board on this particular day. Okay. One of the things we also are encouraging is that applicants just don't come in with an application, that we do a pre-application conference where we can sit down with the applicant to make sure that their project meet planning goals. When we see areas where they can improve their projects, so we can steer them to the planning board instead of the zoning board. The pre-application conference is that opportunity for us to build something that is prudent, and that's something that we will be asking the planning board for some relief of. So we're doing pre-application conferencing. We're not accepting incomplete applications, and each applicant is informed when their review process is over. But just on the review process, I want to opine on letting you know that the professional review involves various city entities, and I could speak from planning and zoning. We get it out as soon as we can. There's also a need, and the escrow would also help facilitate this, in like our water and sewer department and our engineering department, for there to be a dedicated person there who is the engineer, who's the water engineer that looks over just applications.
That was the complaint that I have received, is that the water department is taking a long time in reviewing them.
So I have met with my colleagues in the water department and engineering, and we have discussed this issue in terms of how the escrow would allow for relief in that regards, because we really need dedicated staff that just deals with application. The thing is that our application is just becoming overwhelming, and we need staff.
I thought that when the director mentioned the one stop, that the water department was going to be there to approve, instead of, let's say, having expediting the process instead of coordinating the process. I thought that the water department and all the departments were going to be in the same room, more or less, to make that process simpler and shorter.
Well, I'm sorry, Councilman Gonzalez, the permitting process is not just looking over a checklist and checking it and then saying you're approved. There has to be analysis. Like, we have to go out into the field and verify that what someone is attesting to is true. So therefore, we can only streamline the process. Someone can't just come and think that they're going to fill out their application and get a permit the same day. This doesn't happen that way. We're doing with real life development. Okay.
Thank you. Councilman McCallum.
I just want to say I can appreciate you guys really working on these issues. We've been discussing them for a long time, and we all want to move the city forward, and you're headed in the right direction. The one stop is a great idea. I mean, where we get people in the same room, and you have work to do, moving it forward.
Yes.
But we can appreciate, you got it off to a good start. And what have you been there, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yes, been with the
You've
city
already
7 months.
done, yeah, so we can appreciate that. Anything we can do as a council, we're on your side, so keep up the good work.
Thank you. And thank
Ditto.
you to all of you.
Thank you.
So,
Some final comments?
no, we're going to go to the next, go to the clerk.
The Newark.
The new arc.
The new arc.
You have a package which, provided by EHT.
So before you, you have a package about a project that we would like to launch in Mulberry Commons. Mulberry Commons will be the newest city-owned park added to the portfolio of parks that already exist. That grand opening, ribbon cutting will be happening in the second week of May. You will get more details surrounding that and all the programming that will happen during that day. I'll allow our assistant legislative manager to talk about what was the process, the open and fair process that went into the selection, and then we will allow the artists to talk about their masterpiece.
Thank you, Director Rogers. I'd like to say good morning to the esteemed members of the Newark City Council. Again, this is Rafiq Morman, Assistant Legislative Manager of Economic and Housing Development Department. And I'm here today to introduce Mr. Antonio Pio Saracino, the artist we have selected through the process for the structure of the artistic structure at Mulberry Commons. So essentially, Council, in August of 2018, at the then director's request, we conducted an RFP in conjunction with the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation for the solicitation of proposals for an artistic structure at the center of Mulberry Commons Park. So what happened was, we formulated an art committee. Excuse me. Approximately 5 individuals were formed to evaluate the proposals. We had governmental and non-governmental individuals on the committee to make their selections. And through the art committee, a proposal was selected, and that selection went to Mr. Antonio Pio Saracino of APS Designs Incorporated. After the necessary approvals are attained, we expect the project to take approximately 9 months. But the purpose of this presentation is to familiarize all parties with the proposal, get everyone comfortable with what we're doing, what the concept is before approval. And we'd like you to hear from the artist himself and have him answer any questions that you may have and to get a general idea of his proposal. So without further delay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Council President, I'm sorry.
Before you go on, where's option number 2? This goes from 1 to 3. There's no 2.
Option number 2 of the proposal?
Yes, in the document. There is no number 2.
It goes from 7 feet.
There should be 2 options in the presentation included actually in the pages
It goes
for
from
each proposal.
7 feet to 11 feet. That's the second
Right.
option.
It's on the very last page, Madam President.
Well, my last page is blank.
Okay, so we do have those. Apparently, the official present. Yeah, we can. Yeah, there's the official presentation. We apologize, but if you look on the last page, there should be the 2 options there for the proposal. Are there any other questions before I introduce?
Oh yeah, I know the artist is here, and I don't mean this in any form of disrespect, but with Newark being such a rich art culture, so much art here, so many artists, so many art galleries, we couldn't find an artist from the city of Newark for this project.
Well, we did an RFP. We put out a public proposal for the project, and out of we just basically evaluated the proposals that were solicited to us. We would have liked a Newark-based artist to respond to the RFP.
So you're saying no Newark-based artist responded to the RFP?
The artists basically that were submitted, there were some from New Jersey, there were some from Newark, but there was one that was local from Newark. However, we didn't feel that the proposal met what we were looking for, the artistic standards.
But they did apply.
Correct. There was one local gentleman who did apply, but we felt that this proposal was much more fitting for the city.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
So we are cutting the ribbon without the art?
Yes, that is correct. The art will not be completed for approximately 9 months it's going to take to do the project.
Yeah, I believe that this would be, let's say, a highlight of the park would be having the arc there, and I don't see how we can cut the ribbon without having the park completed, because this completes the park.
It is, while this is a very important project, it is only one aspect of all the programming that happens in the park. The park will be physically completed in the second week in May. Nothing is going to prohibit, there are no gates, there's nothing going to prohibit the public from using the park. So as a result, we should do a soft
opening, he's saying.
A soft opening.
Okay. I'm in my head. I feel like a soft opening means that you can't utilize the park.
No, you could.
Okay.
Well, you have.
Oh, what you mean is that we're going to have a bigger opening
Yes.
in 9 months. Yes. So yes, sir.
I believe it's imperative that we showcase something that I believe it's been compared here to the arcs, the Trump, and all the other arcs in the big cities. So I believe that it's imperative that we have a big celebration celebrating the opening of the Arc of Newark.
We agree, sir. Yes.
Can I get this? So we're going to have a grand opening of the park, and then we'll just have an unveiling of the artwork. Huh?
Yes, sir.
That'll be another celebration.
Yes.
Yes. Know that 6 to 9 months is going to be a little chilly outside also.
Good.
Okay.
We have coats.
Yes.
So lastly, for me, I have one more last question. In terms of the managing of this park, who's set to manage this park?
So we're going through this process right now. So the redeveloper of Mulberry Commons is a joint venture between Edison Properties and J&L. And these are decisions and contractual agreements that were made at least a decade ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really
so as of right now, the what we call the MOPS contract, Maintenance Operations Programming, is awarded. I have to be careful with my words.
Yes.
The NDD, Newark Downtown District, is that is in their purview, and we're working on who's going to be doing the programming. The programming is going to be a joint venture between the city and an experienced programmer. And the goal is to activate the park and to do activities there that bring the community there to enjoy it, enrich it, and make it what it needs to be, a beacon of Eastward.
Got it. Oh, thank you for that. I definitely totally understand your comments in regards to deals already that have been done, or arrangements or agreements that have been agreed upon way before all of us, me, myself, as well as our mayor before he was mayor here. And it's really unfortunate because we have an experience of a park right now in my ward that had the same type of, fundamental agreement that happened, and it hasn't been successful. And so, we get people to manage these parks, and then they're not effective, they're not successful, and we hear nothing but complaints all through the communities, all through the wards, even the new downtown residents who just got here, that some Newarkers would say, even they complain about the management. So it's really unfortunate that we just, we're locked into these things, legally, and, we have to go into this, but it would really be nice if we can just have some Newark culture and Newark management of these parks so that our community would be able to benefit more realistically, shall I say, of these projects. But I'm very excited about the park. I think any green space and more activity for our residents in the city is definitely much needed. I just pray that the success of this park is better than the others that we've had in the city. The programming of it, shall I say, is more successful. So I'm willing to, help out, jump in, assist, just to make sure programming is, promoted, attractive, and, invites people from out of the neighborhoods to the parks. And so that's my biggest concern, not just the Central Ward communities, but all of the city of Newark. People from the North Ward, everywhere, South, West, come down and be able to enjoy the luxuries of these parks. So thank you so much. Can't wait to meet the artist.
No further ado.
Thank you so much. I'd like to start to say that I'm grateful for this opportunity that the city...
Did you state your name?
My name
and
is
position
Antonio
for the record.
Pio Saracino. I'm a designer and artist based in New York, and I'm here for the project in Mulberry Common for the public art. I've been selected for the project, and I was saying I want to express my gratitude to do something for this community. And also I'd like to say that I'm working closely with Yender Production, which is a famous organization, art organization here in the community, to identify individuals that will work in collaboration with me during the process to bring the project to fruition, to be a project of Newark. So I'd like to start just very briefly to introduce some of the projects that I've done all over the world, some mostly in New York City, where I'm based. I just finished, like a few months ago, we just installed the LIFE project for the New York Presbyterian, which is one of the most voted for several years, the most important hospital in the world. And I was invited because they asked for some sculpture. They were inspiring people before going to the hospital. So it was a sculpture that uplift patients before going to the hospital. And so the sculpture was talking about the tension between life being very fragile but resilient at the same time. So there is all this cylinder, they're stacked on top of each other in a very balanced way. Then there is another sculpture, also permanently installed in Bryant Park, 3 Bryant Park. It was a competition, and I won this competition. And my idea was to introduce a hero and a superhero, because New York is a city of heroes, and nowhere there is a monument about heroes. So I've worked to create this superhero that impersonates this giant Superman with the cape of Mercury, which was the god of business. And then on the opposite side of the square, there is this hero, which is in the shape of the David of Michelangelo. It's a gift of the Italian government to New York City. And they are made with a stack of slabs and steel, resembling the idea of architecture being the heroes of civilization, because what we leave behind is what we do. And then 2 years later, I was asked actually by the academia, which is like the most prestigious things they have done so far, of putting that sculpture, an edition of the sculpture, next to the David in Florence. Then I was asked also to design a few iconic sculptures to be placed in the roof of the Pacific Design Center in LA, which represent the 3 buildings in red, blue, and green. This is a pavilion for the Expo, the World Expo in Milan, at the entrance of the university during Design Week, and it was about presenting something, a small temple that links the sun, the energy of the sun, to Earth. This is the only project not built that I like to just show. It's like a project actually under approval. It's a proposal project for the city of Sydney. And I'm just introducing it because it's another arc of triumph that I'm creating. And so the idea was to create this giant arch that is made with slabs from all over the world, representing all the people of Australia, of all the countries that built this country. So just to start the idea of this project, when I was working, I wanted to apply to this competition. I just look and research about the history of Newark, founded in 1666, and first was called New Ark Covenant. And so right there sparked my idea of creating a new ark for Newark, and that comes to the logo. So the name itself created this idea of the project. And if you see, from Rome to the Roman Empire to most modern culture, we have portals, gates, and arches all over the world. And these are just like symbolic arch, they are a gateway to the future, to a bright future. So they are ideas, and that's what civilization is about building ideas for the future. So the idea is to create a new arc that becomes an iconic legacy for Newark. And it's done with all these different arches of different shapes, resembling the idea of a diversity of this community, a community built upon diversities. So all the point is that Newark, a new arc for Newark, it's a symbol to celebrate the identity of your community, an iconic shape drawing inspiration from the city name, a destination for locals, visitors, and tourists, a symbol to celebrate a prosperous future for Newark. So it's going to be a 30-feet high metal portal, representing, again, this passage, this symbolic passage from the past to the future. And another feature that the arc I was thinking is to include lighting, LED lighting, that could broadcast messages and information in different colors under the arches, like from train information, tweets, mayor's tweets, all other things, messages to the city, to the citizen. And this is the positioning in the park. So again, and these are some images to show how this could be engaged with social media images. So a gate to celebrate diversity, a gate to celebrate a new accomplishment, because my idea was really inspired by this corridor, this beautiful park that is the gateway of the city of Newark from the train station. And this modern park is, at the end, in perspective, presenting this arch. It's kind of like a passageway from the past to the future as entrance to the city. So a gate to celebrate new unions. And this is the true dimension of the arc. So the existing budget is allowed to create a 20-feet high arch. And what with the committee, the art committee would like to present is a 30-feet high arch with the same base, 18 feet. And it will also give us the possibility to include lighting. And this is the last thing that shows the lighting overnight, that create these glows inside the arch itself. So it's a gate to celebrate Newark again. So thank you.
Where is it physically in the park?
As you see, this image is basically...
Oh, how nice. Is it close to 21?
It's through the ends close to the Prudential Center.
Okay.
Nice to close to Columbia Road.
Question to administration. Thank you, Council President. Question to the administration. Has this presentation been presented to our mayor? This art piece? This work? Yes?
Aye.
Okay. Secondly, what is you said you're working with Yinder, which is definitely kudos to you for working with them. They are very much familiar with our culture here in our city and has done some amazing work under Rodney Gilbert, the late Rodney Gilbert. In the past, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So what kind of work are they doing with you? Like, how are they assisting you in this?
Well, we are looking to identify both subcontractors to build it and also local artists to activate eventually the messages in the arch and other feature in the arch with local artists.
Okay.
We are in the process to identify that.
All right. And this is final, this design is final to the administration? This is a final design? We committed to this? This is what we're doing already?
I cannot answer.
Administration, I'm
That's
talking
what
to,
I've
I'm
been-
sorry.
The design is final. The matter is coming before you in the next coming weeks to vote on it. But this is what was submitted through the RFP process and what was evaluated by the members of that selections committee.
Got it. Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to the public speaking portion of the meeting. This is a 30-minute period in which speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak. When you step to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. You'll see a small timing device on the podium in front of you, which will begin counting down your time when you begin speaking. When you reach the 2-minute mark, the yellow light will illuminate, indicating that you have 1 minute remaining for summation. And when you reach the 3rd minute, the red light will illuminate, and there will be an audible sound indicating that your time has expired. Please look forward, speak into the microphone. We are recording these proceedings, and if you turn away, we may miss part of your statement. Is there anyone present that wishes to speak at this time?
Yeah, sure. Somebody's device. Dion McCutcheon, Newark, New Jersey. Initially, I came here to Central Ward Councilwoman. I actually initially came here to say congratulations to you with regard to, I think the president gave you acknowledgement for some type of award you received, and I wanted to say congratulations to you with regard to that award, and especially because I wanted to get this in because it's the end of the month of Women's Month, so that's appropriate as well. So I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
And with regard to the email that I sent to everyone, obviously, it's very obvious that I'm supremely late with regard to the process that went to this sewage and utilities project, because I live in Lincoln Park. I don't know if any of you read the email, right, and discussed it, but I live right across the street from that catastrophe, and it's a problem every time it rains. In fact, prior to me even knowing that it was that much of a serious problem, my truck was parked there for time and it damaged my tires. At the time, I didn't know the process that I could have taken to have you guys remedy that, but that's something else. In any event, I don't know why the Lincoln Park area, although Lincoln Park is one of the most historical parks, you know, Lincoln Park, Washington Park, Military Park, we all know that these are historical parks, right, in the largest city in the state, right? And I don't know why Lincoln Park is being neglected. Military Park is gorgeous. I don't know what you guys are really doing or whatever the city's doing for Washington Park, but I think Lincoln Park should deserve some type of upgrade, which I know that it's in process with this. I think I saw this young lady at a few meetings, but that sewage problem is serious. And because it has not been addressed, and because I am now aware of it, and it's right across the street from where I live, I'm going to be monitoring. I'm holding all of you accountable, although it's in the Central Ward, because I CC'd, that means carbon copied, I CC'd all of you. So therefore, I'm going to be monitoring this to see whether or not something gets done permanently. Not some 5-day fix or, hey, we took care of that this weekend. I want it completed. Listen to me, I'm speaking, although I have not been authorized or nominated to, I'm speaking for the entire city of Newark at this point, because Lincoln Park is a serious part of the entire city, not just the Central Ward. I'm assuming you guys read my email. In any event, I will be monitoring this from a citizen standpoint. Every time it rains, I will be taking pictures. I'm letting you know right off the top. So don't be alarmed when I come here and say, hey guys, Dion McCutcheon is here to talk about this again and again and again. Do not be alarmed when some pictures float up on your emails. They're bright, nice pictures too. I'll make sure they're very nice. In any event, I want you guys to take care of this. It's a serious issue for the city, in my opinion. Have a great day. Congratulations again.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Mr. McCutcheon.
Manera El Bomani, citizen of Newark. First, I want to say I need to bust some people's bubble, but you know, we got developments going on in this city, and as we keep coming here to tell you that it's not really benefiting the residents of this city. And there needs to be some type of stronger or to strengthen your enforcement in regards to these ordinance. One is the homeless and housing plan. The right to counsel is not funded, don't even exist, that you're touting. The inclusionary zone, the rent control, and the equitable growth, and also the first source hiring ordinance, they all are ineffective. Now, I don't know who y'all work for, but last I know that you're supposed to be a council and administration that's supposed to represent the residents of the city. And the art community should be outraged about this person here receiving this contract to design this city. I know he going back to the beginning, but we need to get up with the future of the city, and the art don't relate to us here. That's just my 2 cents. All directors should also come before this council and the residents of the city to present their mission, goals, and accomplishments, as I said before. And it was great to see the director, the newly, I don't know why you keep changing over the economic development directors, but we need to understand why y'all keep doing it. But every director should come here and do a presentation about their mission, their goals, and what their accomplishment. I'm talking about real results. Also, we need to find out, when will you be resuming paving these streets? Because these streets are horrible, and I know y'all ride past them every day. Horrible, horrible, horrible. The sanitation, picking up the trash, horrible. So we need to get an updated list on all the streets, past and present, and also the city needs to also be more aggressive in addressing these abandoned properties. You know Seth Borton, right? They had a fire there, okay? Big fire, okay? So what are y'all really doing about aggressively addressing these abandoned and vacant properties in the city? You keep saying things, you keep touting things, but the residents are here suffering. We keep coming to this meeting, and we're going to keep coming, but what are you going to do? Seriously. No answers? No answers? No answers, right?
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Councilwoman Crump, I have a couple of responses.
Other speakers?
That's it.
Speakers.
Mr. Clerk, that's it.
That's it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I just wanted to make 2 points real quick. It will be really, really quick. Mr. McCutcheon, I did get your email, and we will work with Water and Sewer to address the flooding issue in Lincoln Park. So definitely, thank you for your email. Thank you for the information we will address. In addition, that's it for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
That's it.
No more speakers.
No more speakers. Motion.
Motion.
There's no motion to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, I'm new here, so I apologize for that. I was just told if I can say something. Can you give me a hearing?